We're live.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Bulluminati podcast, proudly presented by Irish 31. Guys, there's two more road games left on this 2021 USF football season at Tulane, at Central Florida. Make sure you go out to the 7 great locations that Irish 31 has. We had a great watch party there a few weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. Just go out there, have some fun, drink some drinks, have some good food, hang out with Coach Scott. They've got wall-to-wall flat screens. If you take a picture with Jeff Scott, they've got a cardboard cutout at every single Irish 31 location. And just tweet at Irish 31 and on Instagram as well at Irish 31, hashtag horns up. You'll be entered to win some contests, win some tickets as the season winds down here. A lot to go over tonight. Jam-packed show. Guys, I just went and saw Santa. It was great. Bass Pro Shops, folks. Free pictures with Santa. Brody and Olivia looked cute as a button. So it was great. But let's just jump into it. Steeg, men's basketball is back.
Men's basketball is back. It's the only thing I live for, the sport that I genuinely didn't care about before joining us on the Daily Stampede, and I really still don't care too much about even on the Daily Stampede, but I at least have been fully ingrained into the off-season flutter. It's kind of like when you watch like the third season of like Lost or something like that, and you're just like really like all into it, and you kind of have to like be really ingrained into it now. That's kind of where I am with my love-hate relationship with USF men's basketball here.
Well, hopefully it ends better than Lost.
Does it typically ever end better than Lost? Once in the last decade.
We have a CBI championship banner to speak to it, to speak to this dynamic program.
Joke's on you, Josh C. I've had my Christmas tree up since last December. Never took it down, decorated for every holiday, and now it is already decorated for Christmas. I did yard work this weekend to set up for the Christmas lights. Seth, your wife and my wife probably should be best friends. They are hardcore into Christmas. How many trees are in your house right now?
Like full size. We haven't broken out the full size one yet because we have to clear out space for it. But we've probably got like little trees like the one behind me, probably 6 or 7, I'd bet, maybe more than that. There's just a bunch of little ones right now, just setting the stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
My wife, sorry, Josh, my wife says Thanksgiving's not a real holiday.
You get Wednesday night, Thursday, and then some of Friday morning, and that is it.
That's it.
That's it.
No, you skip Thursday for me. That's it. I get like 3 months of Christmas. Like the second October 1 hits, I'm in like nightmare for Christmas mood. Get a little spooky in there, but second that date turns, it's just we're in full Christmas mode now.
Yeah, we start Halloween August 1st, so this house is in holiday mode as soon as football season comes around. So
it makes sense. Well, it was a nice little treat. Early Christmas came early for Brian Gregory and the USF Bulls. They start the season 1-0. They take down Bethune-Cookman, who hadn't played a competitive basketball game in 620 days. Their entire sports calendar got wiped out due to COVID. And a little nervy, through 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of that game, but they pull away. They win 75-54. Sorrell Smith with just a beautiful backdoor cover for the Bulls with 2 seconds left. Nice little layup. He got to get on the stat sheet. He only had 1 point up to that juncture. You got to get a field goal in so good for him. Brian Gregory and the new look Bulls, man, they're a little bit more aggressive. They're a little bit more high paced. Russell Chua, Jameer Chaplin, and Caleb Murphy all in double figures. Russ he had 16 points, went 5 of 6 from the field. Most impressive part for him. 6 of 7 from the charity stripe. It was a big point of emphasis for the Bulls heading into this year. That they hit just under 70% of their free throws, so it didn't really hurt them. Caleb Murphy went 1 for 4. Jameer Chaplin went 1 for 2, but Javon Green went 2 for 2. He had 7 points. Jake Boggs also had 7 points for the starters as well. They just look more explosive, Steeg. A few really great backdoor alley-oops. I mentioned it in our Slack, Jake Boggs going left, turning the corner on a blow-by and putting in a lefty layup. Granted, it is Bethune-Cookman, and you probably can't do that against Houston and Memphis, but hey, it's a start after what last year was.
Yeah, it's, I think a lot of people are going to, the preseason projections on USF, like no one knew what this team was going to look like. When you have basically like one major contributor coming back from a team, and then you bring in 9 new faces, 2 new assistant coaches, and then just throw it all in there. We're also completely revamping the offensive system that this team has been running for the past 3 years. You could have just put a giant question mark anytime anyone mentioned USF, but we finally got to look at what it looks like, obviously against Voorhees College the week before, and then and at least a little bit of a competitive mantra against Bethune-Cookman there. But it's the way I've been kind of observing and hearing is that the team's more fun this year. I think last year and the years before, a lot of the times for USF basketball games, it was just this slogging rock fest of hero ball and letting LaQuincy Rideau and the whole crew just drive to the basket, collect the rebound, maybe follow it up in there. And I was very, very pleased. I kind of have been looking at the early part of this season a lot, how I looked at the USF football team. I'm not caring too much about just the straight up wins and losses. Obviously, you don't want to lose your gimme game against a lower school like Bethune-Cookman. But the amount of progress that we saw tonight, just straight up from the first 10 minutes of the game, the second, the middle 20, and then last 10 minutes. There was a completely different feel about this team, and that's still without 2 really heavy contributors with Jalen McCreary and Corey Walker Jr.
Right.
Jalen McCreary was sick. Flu's going around again, and Corey Walker Jr. had a little bit of a little. I don't want to say what the injury is, but he's on crutches. He had surgery. Yeah, he's on crutches. So okay, I didn't know how much we were want to say on that. But he's out for probably about another 3 weeks, and that's 2 guys that they were also very much leaning and heavily looking at for contributions this year. So all things considered, the team covered. Shot free throws pretty well up until the announcers jinx came in when they were, I think, like 15 for 17. Allowed them to miss a few more towards the end there. Hit some threes. Had some really good look at threes. Just some of them didn't fall. You would hope with a team that's revamped and focused on shooting the three that you hit more than 3 a game. But at the end of the day, you still won by 21 points. And you had more fun. Saw a lot of alley-oops, saw a lot of dunkerinos. It was fun stuff.
Yep. I think the couple of things that kind of stand out to me, everybody who played scored. So that's always good to kind of get everyone involved, right? Sam Hines Jr. had 9 points off the bench for the Bulls. Trey Moss, the true freshman, he had 2 points in 11 minutes of action. He didn't turn the ball over, but that's been a big issue for USF over the last few years under Brian Gregory, is they turn the ball over so much, but they didn't tonight. It's only 7 turnovers, which is fantastic. And then they had 15 assists on 28 made shots, that's an indicator of great ball movement, guys actually moving without the ball, and just being able to knock down your shots. They shot 51% from the field, and then they shot 65% in the second half, which is pretty damn good. And the final 5:18 of the game, where they really kind of iced and salted this game away, they went on a 14-1 run. So the defense clamped down. They were able to make some shots and just kind of ran away with it. It looked dicey early on in the first half. They went up 27-16. pretty quick. And then Jameer Chaplin goes out, for a spell, and Bethune goes on an 11-2 run to end the half and go into halftime tied at 29. And you're thinking, oh man, this is going to be another one of those type of games where you're really playing down to the competition and really kind of out of sorts. And they slowly start to get it together. I'm not saying this is a CBI team by any means. I wouldn't even think of that, but it's a step in the right direction. It's tough. It's tough knowing with how last season went and everything that went along with last season with COVID, with the issues with Tom Herron, with his racist comments toward players who are no longer in the program or kind of dispersed across the country at this point. It's hard to kind of figure if this is a must be over 500 season for Brian Gregory. I think it says a lot that he even came back after everything, after the fallout of everything. The investigation proved that he handled everything properly and by the letter. So that's a good indication for USF and good for him. But the time will tell. I mean, it's a pretty tough conference slate. Non-conference is a little bit easier. I think they kind of learned they need to stack some wins here to get the confidence of this group before going into conference play. So we'll see. But good start. I like the win. But we'll see how things actually work. Russell Chua looked actually really good. I was less than impressed by his performance in the first half against Voorhees. He looked I like to call them BFNs, big for nothings.
Yeah, I had no idea what a BFN was, by the way. Just full disclosure, it took me like 15 minutes to figure out what you meant by that.
Yeah, it's a big for nothing. You're 7 foot and can't do much. It's a pretty big insult to guys who are like 6'2", 6'3", playing pickup ball and they can't do a damn thing on the court. Luckily, I never had that problem. I was just big, but I was also just big for nothing but in the wrong kind of big. I was good for one game winner on the court. That's about it. I'd go 1 for 12. I think there's a TikTok going around a couple weeks ago where it's just the guy who only hits game winners. He'll go 0 for 12 and then hit the game winner and then talk a bunch of shit. That's me.
That's going to be Sorrell Smith this year, by the way. Just full disclosure. I mean, he's gonna do absolutely nothing but just hit a game winner against UCF for no reason. Well, for a particular reason.
Yeah. I mean, and just looking at the plus minus, like the starters were really, really freaking good. They're going to have to figure out this bench. Chua was plus 33. Jameer was plus 30. Caleb was plus 22. Jake Boggs was plus 28. Javon Green was plus 25. And then literally the bench were all minus 9, -4, -1, -10, -9. They got to figure out the bench. Their starting five is decent. And then when they get Jalen McCreary back into the fold and get him mixed in, it'll be even better. But the bench may be an issue early on here.
Just got to unleash Mark Kalea, baby. Just let him go. Let him rip.
I mean, he's on scholarship now. Let him play.
Mark Kalea hits a 3 this year. We in the program. We end it. No reason to go on further.
Can you get higher than Mark Kalea 3? I doubt it. Moving on quickly. Women's basketball is facing University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. I believe I got that right.
Yep.
Boys got like 18 first names. I don't understand. They're heading into the fourth quarter now. USF leads 55-47. Lots of turnovers by the Bulls. Kind of the antithesis of the men's game. They have 11 turnovers through 3 quarters. They're shooting 35%. I do not even look at what their layup numbers are, but here I go doing stupid stuff. They're 11-21 in layups, which is less than ideal. They started out. They went on a 10-0 run to start the game, so they've been basically out. It's basically been an even game since that point. So though I'm sure Jose's had some words to say the least.
Maybe they'll do another midnight practice.
Maybe. Maybe. I mean, they can't show clause him twice, right? I think they can.
That's double jeopardy.
You can't get me on the same thing twice.
There's no one would be that stupid to get in trouble for the same thing twice. No one.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, basketball season in full tilt now, guys. Let's go. USF's going to defend their regular season and tournament title. It's fun stuff. I think this is a second round or bust for this women's basketball team. So we'll get it figured out. They're now up by 5 early in the fourth quarter, so they need to figure it out quick. They should not be messing around with this team, if we're being perfectly honest. But let's jump into the kind of the reason we're here. Right? It's football season.
That's right.
Seth, we got to contribute you some way. You got to be involved.
Yeah,
I'm ready. I've been resting my voice.
Yeah, I appreciate Seth's blank stare as he hoped to God I didn't ask him a question about the 2-3 zone.
I'm a young Boeheim over here.
Let's get into it. USF falls to Houston at homecoming with some great helmets. They lose 54-42. If USF's defense was bad instead of just horrendously god awful, they may win that game. Just could not get a stop when they needed one. I mean, up and down, up and down, up and down. You never really thought that Houston wasn't going to score unless they stopped themselves, and they did that. They kind of parked the bus a little bit early in that fourth quarter, where Clayton Toon's kind of throwing the ball all over the place, and they 3 runs and punt, and then he's just letting USF kind of hang around for some silly reason. I think Dana Holgerson's very conservative play calling on the plus side of the field on fourth down was just kind of puzzling to me. When you have a chance to put away a bad team, I think you try to do it, especially early on, and he didn't, and it nearly cost them. But let's just kind of get into it. The good, the bad, the oh my God, why? USF's offense, a bit sputtery. They got a couple of good drives. I think Jeff Scott mentioned in his press conference today, every drive that they converted a third down, they scored. And then Seth, how long have we been talking about third down conversions?
3 years now.
3 years.
It's a pretty, it's one of the fundamental parts of the game. You're good on third downs, you'll probably be pretty good.
And they were 8 of 16 on third down, which is pretty incredible compared to what Houston had been giving up, right? And then Houston is 3 for 10 on third down, but they still rack up 646 yards of total offense. They didn't really need third downs much. When you can break off a 97-yard run on the first play from scrimmage after a really great punt and coverage by Andrew Stokes and the punt coverage team, it's tough. And yeah, you couldn't run the ball inside. I think the defensive line really kind of gave the offensive line some fits here, and they really didn't try to do too much on the outside. We'll get deeper into that tomorrow for our film room session, but it just seemed I don't know, disjointed would probably be the best word for some spurts of it. Timmy was kind of running for his life a little bit. He had to make some great plays. They escaped the pocket to Mitch Brinkman. They escaped the pocket to Chris Carter for that touchdown. Just 2 tremendous plays. And there were 2 other ones I think he just actually took off and ran with it, which was good. But he finished 22 of 46, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That 289, I think everything I just said are career highs for Timmy McClain. 22 completions, 46 attempts, 289, 2 touchdowns. He hadn't thrown an interception since NC State, but they were pretty costly interceptions. Once again, just kind of taking points off the scoreboard a little bit, and he'll learn from it. But it really doesn't matter. I think we're kind of beating around the bush here. It really doesn't matter when you're giving up 9.9 yards per play. It doesn't matter what your offense is doing.
No, but 46 seems like a lot of passes, doesn't it? Does that seem like too many to you guys?
I mean, I don't think we were going to run the ball, like, realistically.
But if he got 46 passes and he's got 11 rushes, how many of those are scrambles off of passes? Like
all of them, because they don't really call design runs for quarterback.
So now, I mean, so you've possibly called 50 dropbacks in a game with a true freshman quarterback against a really good defense. I think he played pretty well, but they're asking him to do an awful lot. I don't like. I really wish I was on the podcast last week because I kind of wanted to mention this. I don't think if USF was going to have a snowball's chance in hell at beating Houston, it was going to be because we would run the ball a lot. We can lean on the running game against Temple and ECU and everything like that, but like that's not just like a top rush defense in the conference. That's like one of the best rush defenses in the country. They're giving up like 2 yards a carry, and that's against Navy and Texas Tech and good teams. You ran the ball 27 times and averaged 4 yards a rush. Now some of
but
how much playing, but like Brian Battie, his first 3 touches, he had 3 touchdowns, averaged like 79 yards a touch. Why not get him the ball in the perimeter a little bit? Or I don't think Joyner had a single carry, did he? Yeah, and then Mangum, I think Will said on the postgame that he thought Mangum might be banged up a little bit.
Yeah, he said he twisted his knee, right?
You've got some guys that have explosiveness on the perimeter. If there's, especially with McLean, I mean, you start running I think they did a little bit of option stuff. That kind of stuff can give people some problems when you got a guy like him back there. And then if he's pitching it to Joyner or Battie out there, and those guys, I mean, just when those guys catch pitches, they look like they're shot out of a cannon. Like there's some stuff they can do. I don't know if they're calling a bunch of RPOs and he's pulling it to throw a bunch of them, or if they're calling that many passes. But that is a lot to put on a true freshman against a really good defense. He made some unbelievable plays. So I mean, he's obviously, we've been saying all year, he's really talented, and you see it, and he's going to be a really good player. And he's already at times really good now, but they're asking him to do an awful lot right now, which, can come back to bite you sometimes. But maybe they just want to, hey, we're taking off the training wheels, figure it out. But that is an awful lot to ask a freshman to do against a really good defense. When you have some good players surrounding him that you can get them the ball in the perimeter, let them run, get them the ball outside, let them, get them in space and see what they can do.
To your point, Seth, Timmy had 15 first half pass attempts and then 31 in the second half. That's I don't know how much of that is dictated by the game, right? I mean, it was a 2-score game for a while, and then it was a 1-score game, as they came back with 3:59 left. So maybe it's just kind of throwing to get back into the game and having some success. He was 3 for 10 on deep passes. So he hit a couple, right? But I don't know. I would have tried a little bit harder to get Battie and Kelly more involved. It just, as you mentioned, it seemed weird that they kind of gave up on the run pretty quickly after 2 weeks ago, rushing for a school record, and they still had some success running the ball last week.
Joyner went over 100 yards last week and then barely got a touch this week. So I don't know if typically the running back coach, right, is kind of in charge of the rotation. So I don't know how they're doling those out. I mean, I think Darian Felix is still kind of banged up. He's not getting any run, if any. So according to the stat broadcast, which
I don't get it.
McLean had 11 carries, Batee, Mangum, and Joyner together had 14. So that's just the guy is talented, but man, you're asking him to do an awful lot. So
Yeah.
Me personally, I kind of wish I would have. I mean, I feel like, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this one. I feel like knowing how much their defensive line was getting penetration basically the entire game, I almost like Rice and Scott were like, I mean, you're gonna you're gonna get a run like Batee had for his first score every once in a while, but Timmy was running for his life almost immediately every single time. Yeah, you could probably run it outside. I would have liked to see them get more creative with these play calls. I think they ran a screen that was pretty effective, if I recall correctly, and then kind of didn't, get creative with kind of you're not going to be able to run the ball against Houston's defense.
Yeah, but if they're really aggressive up front, there's stuff you can do in the run game. You can trap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
you can run draw, you can run screen. There's stuff you can do to slow them down a little bit, and that'll help on both sides. That'll help the passing game out too, because when they won't be so quick to go. But this game, like you said though, Nate, this game was the offense played well enough to win, regardless. I thought it was just an interesting look in the box score. That's a lot of throws. But this game was not lost by the offense.
No, definitely not. It was just another kind of mark on the board for Glenn Spencer and maybe his ineptness as a defensive coordinator. We kind of talked about, we've talked about this, that, he wasn't really great at Oklahoma State. He got really lucky with just hitting with FAU at the right time, with the right team, with Lane Kiffin, with the turnover luck and being plus 26 in turnovers. I don't know. I get him. I get Jeff Scott again, wanting some veteran presence on the defensive side of the ball. And I truly get it. But how many more games are you going to have to sit through where you have a lead going into halftime? Because this is the fourth straight game you've had a lead going into halftime after a season where you're starting out getting absolutely mollywopped by NC State and Florida. You're figuring it out, right? You're progressing. The offense is progressing. The special teams is by far the best unit on this team, and it's not close. And the defense is just kind of dragging itself along, and the dead weight of the defense right now is really setting back any progress of this team. And it doesn't, for the fan base, all they're seeing are wins and losses because the defense is just such a glaring black hole right now. It's tough to take any positives away from it. You can't, Brian Batee wins Special Teams Player of the Week deservedly. 2 touches. Well, he had 3 returns, but 2 kickoff returns, 2 touchdowns, 200 yards just off of those. And you're wasting that. And he wasted the one against Tulsa, and then he wasted a pick 6 in Tulsa. You can't be wasting the things that don't happen often and still keep coming up short and allowing a first down every play. It just, at some point, you got to call a spade a spade. And I think Jeff Scott was a little bit. I asked the question on Saturday, is it time to reevaluate the defense coordinator position? I know, the fans know, everybody knows he's not going to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna leave him here and he's got to find his own way home. That's just not going to happen. I think the more important things are what he said before he started taking questions. And he harped on, we have to be better at coaching. We have to be better as coaches. He said that 4 or 5 times, and it really, that's what he was doing. That's the part you need to take from this, is he knows they need to be a lot better. And not just offensively. The play calling aside, right? Offensively, 46 passes is a lot. It's the defensive side of the ball that he was really kind of pointing toward. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing this and expecting the progress, expecting the fans not to jump ship, because damn, you can't get the rug pulled out from under you so many times, right? And now you're going up against as Alex says, he's number 5 in the CFP. They've got an outside shot to run the table and sneak into the college football playoff. And now Cincinnati must be really motivated because they've had a slow start, 3 or 4 weeks in a row. They've got to really put the hammer down and put the full court press on this weekend to close out this year if they really want a shot to kind of usurp this entire process and get into that playoff. So the defense needs to step up, and it's Glenn Spencer. It starts with Glenn Spencer. You're either coaching it or you're letting it happen, and it's one of those two. Unless, Seth, I'm missing something, and there's something else that it could be. But it's either you're coaching it or you're letting it happen, and both are not good right now for the Bulls defensively.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture. It's a mixture of personnel and scheme a little bit. Some of the things you have to limit some scheme due to personnel, but you can scheme around it too. Like we talked about last week, I think we even mentioned it a little bit on the post game that, does Navy have better players than USF? I don't think so, but they're consistently in the right place. They consistently tackle well. They consistently make it tough on teams. They held Tulsa to 200 yards less than USF holds Tulsa to, or maybe even 300. It was, Navy holds Houston to, 6 yards of play instead of 10 yards of play. So obviously some changes to be made. And sometimes, it's not always necessarily this guy's a bad coach or this guy's, doesn't know what he's doing. Sometimes it just doesn't work and it doesn't fit. So, yeah, you've got to be willing to make changes to what you've got on hand. And sometimes it's just, some guys fit with certain personnel and they really need that personnel and their stuff doesn't work as well with other guys. So it's not even, I don't think it's even necessarily a coach is really good or bad, but it's not working, obviously. So something's got to change. Either you've got to make wholesale changes to your scheme, or you got to make wholesale changes to players, or you got to make wholesale changes to your staff, or at least, the coordinator position. I mean, we're seeing this in other places, right up the road in Florida. They held on probably a year too long. And this season has been terrible, and they've kind of just gotten worse and worse and worse. So if yours just Scott feel like this is not working, it doesn't necessarily mean you think this guy's bad, or it just doesn't work. Sometimes you just need a different voice in there. So it's not working so far. They've got a few more games to try to change and find something, but it's been a couple of years now, and they haven't really been able to find any kind of consistency within the team. So they're in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Florida kind of hanging on a year too long, right? Now Dan Mullen's pressed to kind of find a defensive coordinator it's basically a save my job kind of thing. You've got to hit this defensive coordinator hire out of the ballpark, or you're going to be out of the job here shortly.
I said for Mullen, and it's really true for all offensive coaches, guys that are more leaning offensive, like Coach Scott. Jeff Scott's an offensive guy, always has been. Your two most important hires are your offensive line coach and your defensive coordinator. Probably reverse order there. Defensive coordinator is probably number one, and then next is the offensive line coach. So Florida's had to fire both theirs. I think you got a really good offensive line coach at USF. Coach Mo is really good. I think really well-respected, great recruiter. You've got to figure out what's going on defense. Whether a change needs to be made, a change in scheme. Maybe, you're trying to make all these guys fit in this certain box. Well, it's time to try something different, because what you're doing is not working. You're not, it's not like they're trying to do the exact same things every week. They are trying different things, but maybe your approach has to change. Something's got to give here, because nothing they've tried has been able to work for an extended period of time. It's really been when they played really bad offenses, they've been able to execute. And even like FAMU was able to move the ball on them. Really, Temple's the only team that wasn't able to move the ball a lot. They still averaged 6 yards of play, or 6.6 yards of play. So they still on a per play basis, that's not great either. So something's got to get fixed here. I'm sure Jeff Scott realizes it and knows it because they've probably left a game or two on the table. It feels like this year, because of the defense.
2 or 3.
Right. I was talking to Ben McCool, he covers USF for Rivals. We were talking after the game, and a few of these games break right. I mean, maybe you don't beat Houston, right? But you're still kind of in contention, right? If you beat Tulsa, if you beat ECU, where you're leading by a decent amount,
14-6 at halftime,
14-6 at halftime, right? And you're kind of controlling the pace. You win those 2 games, now you're staring at what, 4-5 with 3 games left, and now you throw Cincy out of the table. You're 4-6, and now you have 2 pretty winnable games, right? You've got Tulane, who's just absolutely reeling. I think Willie. I don't know, man. That's just that one. We'll have to talk to JP at Fear the Wave about what the hell happened. I guess Will Hall not being there was a really big miss that we just kind of. I know I whiffed on. I really thought they were going to take another step forward, but it seemed like maybe Willie Fritz's time has kind of run its course. And then Central Florida, it's still a pretty winnable game. I mean, they struggled against a really bad Tulane team. They had to eke out that win last week, and they've had to eke out a few of these wins without Dylan Gabriel, and the Gus bus is kind of teetering on the brink here. They're going to go bowling. They're 6-3, right? But it hasn't been pretty, and it's a pretty winnable game on the road. I mean, it's not this vaunted offense that it's not this vaunted 2017 2018 offense that you have to worry about anymore with Mikey Keene back there. They've still got good players. They're still fast. Bowser still scares the bejesus out of me. He's a big physical runner. And with the way USF tackles, he's going to be a problem, but it's a more winnable game than you would have told me on September 2nd. Right. So, I mean, you're fighting for bowl eligibility the last 2 weeks of the season. If your defense coordinator is just bad instead of terrible, that's really what it comes down to. And I've made it a point on our post game show, on our recap. I make it a point, especially since I took over the blog. I think Colin and Jamie were a little bit more trigger happy with firing coaches, but for good reason. I mean, they had to go through the Doug Woolard years and Skip years, and I get that. But I'm a little bit more hesitant to publicly, I'll tell people, privately that this is probably not going to work out, and have the same sentiments kind of echoed back to me from people around the program, but. To kind of publicly be like, this probably isn't it. I'm a little bit more hesitant to do so, but I've done it 3 times since I've taken over the blog after the UCF game in 2017. Sterling Gilbert in that Birmingham Bowl in 2017. We nailed it. Ryan Smith, of friend of the blog, longtime contributor, he called it San Jose State. He was like, this isn't going to work. Game 1. And we were like, oh, well, first game jitters, we'll figure it out. By that Birmingham Bowl, I was done. I was absolutely out on Sterling Gilbert. This is where I drew the line here. He was so pissed at me for saying that he should be fired, which, sure, you can be mad that, someone's saying that you should be fired. Before he would talk to me again, I had to apologize to him for saying that he should be fired. And then in that same conversation, this jackass goes, well, my system doesn't really fit with Quentin Flowers. What position is he playing in the NFL now? I'm like, dude, then fit your system around the best guy in the conference. Fit your system around him. And we're seeing what Sterling's doing. Charlie probably should have been gone after that Tulane game in 2018. And then early in September of 2019, I wrote an article basically saying Charlie needs to go. And, what must be done eventually should be done immediately. And now we're here with Glenn Spencer. And I fear that we're teetering on the brink of another Sterling Gilbert situation where the fans are just going to be out on one of your coordinators, one of your top lieutenants on your staff. You can't have that. and the offense knows. The units know which unit is really dragging behind, and I can tell you right now, they know what's happening. And it's got to be so frustrating for this offense, this special teams, to just kind of have their efforts just blown by the wayside because the defense can't get a stop to save their life.
It's that Yu-Gi-Oh meme with the 3 dragons and the 2 of them are like really cute. The third one is just like derping it out.
A little bit. And that's where we are, right? And it's tough. There's still talent on this defensive, side of the ball. They're getting some reinforcements. They should be getting even more reinforcements here in the next couple of weeks. Just got kind of hit on. They've been kind of knocking it out of the park on their official visits, and I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised as we get deeper and deeper into the early signing period, which is like a month away.
I mean, big recruiting news, right? Last week, Steeg, in the high school ranks.
Yeah, I mean, you get a guy like Eddie Kelly to come to this program, and I think it's twofold. Obviously, you get a guy like Eddie Kelly who's in a very big position of need for USF at defensive end. Yes, Alex, I'm a man of culture. I watched Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's not just Eddie Kelly as the defensive end, but it's the process of how you got Eddie Kelly, the defensive end, to commit to USF. I mean, you're talking about a guy that wasn't just being like offered by Florida State and Florida and Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I mean, he was being courted by those schools. Like they were wanting him like as a pivotal part of their program. And in every single, piece that they had about Eddie Kelly, the entire time he mentioned, I believe in Jeff Scott. He, treated us like family. Did I cut out?
You're still there. Well, maybe.
Did I cut out? Okay. No, you guys cut out. Am I out?
You're good.
Okay. So to plug Will Turner's piece that he posted, his interview with him. I mean, Jeff Scott was taking care of Eddie Kelly's mom and dad and family and everything, and there's a great story in there. And just to summarize it, I mean, there's so much relationship building that Jeff Scott is doing, and he's doing it very early. I mean, these relationships started getting built the second he made his debut in Tampa, and it's continuing on now. I mean, 2 years ago, that Eddie Kelly offer was probably nothing, and now look at it now. It's growing, and like Nate was alluding to, there's more to come. I know everyone wants to talk about previous offers and star ratings and this and that and blah blah blah. Be patient with it. It's coming. The wave is coming, and if I can give any not to read between the lines on things, a lot of these players that are committing to USF on the defensive side of the ball, they're not really mentioning Glenn Spencer, and I'm not gonna, not to sugarcoat who Eddie Kelly is or anything like that. Eddie Kelly doesn't really fit a 3-3-5 defense. So if you want to read between the lines of things might be changing this offseason, then there's more guys that fit behind that Eddie Kelly mold that might raise some questions if you're really trying to push a 3-3-5 defense. So we'll see what happens this offseason, but it's I mean, what a fantastic pickup for USF. It wasn't just the high 3-star. It's getting him the way that we did.
Yeah, and I think if you're questioning, there's a lot of people out there that are questioning Jeff Scott's recruiting ability. Read Will's article and kind of see the links he went to get this guy signed up. He did a really, really good job. Did a lot of research into him and his family, not just him, but his mom. A really, really good article. Check that out if you kind of want to see kind of a little bit of an inside scoop on his recruitment, because Will gets pretty in depth into it there, and Jeff Scott looks pretty good when you kind of read through it.
USF women's basketball won.
Spoiler.
think Nate might be lagging behind.
Oh no.
Oh no, he is. Oh well, it's the Steeg and Seth show now. Seth, let's sing us a song.
Oh no, we're not doing that. No. What was the final there?
Oh shit, I just looked at it.
No.
63-56. Not the most barn burner of games. But at the end of the day, for the USF women's basketball team, the road to 30-0 starts today, and there's only 29 games left for that 30-0. So,
a journey of 30 victories starts with a single victory.
Jerry, how confident are we getting a dub in Orlando?
I think it's possible. I think I'd say a lot more confident than we were at the beginning of the season, like Nate said a little earlier.
I feel the same level of confidence as I'm not going to do the opening number to "Love Never Dies." No one deserves that. I would say I would put that comparable to the ECU game. I think especially if Timmy plays, I think we might have a chance. UCF's defensive line is quite stout this year, but I think overall, I think they're not very well coached. I don't think they have as much of a firepower as they have had in the past, like Nate was alluding to. So I think it's certainly possible. And for certain that Timmy and Jimmy are going to be wanting to really stick it to that school. To not even get offered by UCF, and they lived 22 minutes away from it. So, that might be a bit of a revenge game a la Shaquille and Sharif Rashad, or Shaquille and not Rashad, Shaquille and Sharif Griffin. Shaquem? I'm thinking of Sharif Rashad. But
didn't both of them play for the Jaguars? How do you not know their names?
So fun fact, at my high school, we had a Sharif and Shaquille Rashad, and I just continuously will confuse those four names. They're both basically the same thing. Shout out to Episcopal School of Jacksonville.
There you go.
Oh Lord. Let's dig into Cincinnati, right? We're on to Cincinnati. Okay, we're on to Cincinnati. This Bearcats team is pretty effing good. If you guys didn't realize, dear God. So they're really good. That's a lot of blue.
This graphic was done in honor of Veterans Day coming up, along with the helmet. We've got the blue for Cincinnati, the white, and then the red for USF. So it's all part of the theme this week. So don't get too afraid.
Golly, man. But I will say this. The one thing that sticks out to me is USF's rushing success rate on offense, top 50 in the country. Hello, welcome to the party.
They're steadily climbing. Total success rate is 56. The offense has steadily climbed. The
defense is really red.
Not as much. They've actually gotten better in third and fourth downs recently. But when you look at early downs, EPA here, right here, the early downs, that's how good are you on first and second down? You don't get to a lot of third downs if you're not very good on first and second down. So
Seth, you're telling me if you give up 9.9 yards per play, you don't see third down often?
No, not typically.
Yeah.
When
how many plays
averages over a first down every time they snap the ball?
Interesting.
Don't often get to third down.
That's an interesting theory that you have.
Yes.
So Cincinnati, obviously, it's senior night for 18 USF Bulls. Jeff Scott said that the 18 people who were seniors unanimously wanted to come back. Then he also said, "Well, we're not going to have everybody back." You know, just how the numbers play out. There's going to be a lot of. So, what are your plans next year? Conversation is going to be had after the Black Friday game, as USF was officially eliminated from bowl contention with the loss at versus Houston. 6 p.m. on ESPN2. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I think
6 p.m.
Dude. So straight up, I'm gonna miss the first 45 minutes of the game because I get out of work at 6 and I'm driving from Brandon. So you guys will be in. I was gonna say capable hands, but you guys are gonna be hands of Robert Steeg. He will be live tweeting the game for us. Until I arrive and get set up.
I'll be looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, Seth, make sure you got to be my editor in the room.
I'll be there.
But I mean, 6 p.m. on a Friday. There's got to be a reason. Are the Bucks at home this week against Washington? Anybody?
That's a good question.
Anybody in the chat? No. There's got to be some reason.
Nope. We're in Washington. We are.
Switching allegiances, huh?
You guys are in Washington. What other college football game is going on Friday? Because actually, there's nothing going on Friday. It's here's our barn burner Friday matchups for you folks.
Man, you score a big win.
Seth, is it you and me?
Sounds like it.
Is it? I didn't know if it was. I can never tell if it's me because it's usually my internet that kicks. Yeah. So the riveting ESPN Friday night matchups this year for Week 11. You get Cincinnati and South Florida. Top 5 Cincinnati against bottom 5 South Florida, and then you get Wyoming and Boise State. So you're getting not great.
Little big sky country action.
You got the Lord's country, going at it in a boxing match. I think it's because that Wyoming Boise State game. I think it's because it's at 9, so I think they're trying to fit both in without a 10 p.m. Eastern time kick on a Friday night.
Because they usually put the Pac-12 game on at 10:30, so
yeah,
that lets them start the other game a little bit later. But a 6 o'clock kick on a Friday night, it's going to be interesting here, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the TV director, but yeah, I think the on to Cincinnati portion of this can be summarized as pain. I mean,
yeah, they're pretty good. So they're number 5 in the country in the playoff, but I think are they still top 2 and are they still 2 in a lot of the human polls?
Yeah, the real people interacting. Yeah, they're still number 2 in the coaches and AP. So
looking at the advanced stats here, they are really good pretty much everywhere. Especially defensively. They are top 25 in everything, just about top 15 in most things. So they do a really good job of. So this is an interesting one that's always fun to look at, especially with how USF kind of plays its games recently. Equal rate and points per equal. So equal rate is quality drives. So what percentage of your drives are quality drives? Those are ones that either you have an explosive touchdown or you drive the ball past the 40-yard line. So going in to score past the 40, right? Defensively, they're 15th in the country and they don't allow a lot of quality possessions. But when they do, they're 6th in points per opportunity. So once you cross the 40 on them, you only score on average 2.88 points. On the other side, USF's really bad at finishing those drives when they get down there, only averaging 3.3 points on offense. And then it's kind of a similar story With Cincinnati's offense and USF's defense, Cincinnati does a pretty good job of having quality drives, and they do a good job of finishing those drives. 12th in the country in points per quality possession with almost 5. So that means they're scoring more touchdowns than field goals when they get down there. USF's 109th, giving up almost 5 points per opportunity. So this is definitely a game where you got to kind of make it muddy, make it murky. Maybe try to hold the ball a little bit on offense, but they are really good at rush defense. So this is going to be a really tough one. But again, Houston, if we went back and looked at Houston, it was a similar quality of defense, and USF was able to have some success against them. So there is room for optimism and reason for optimism. So, I mean, how are you feeling about this game?
I mean,
you already gave your Mr. T quote with Payne, but
yeah,
beyond
Payne.
that, yeah.
I mean, I've gotten more into the mindset of the any given Sunday, any given day kind of mindset, especially with how USF has been coming together as a team. I think culturally, and not this is gonna sound like a bunch of BS mumbo jumbo for a second, but like culturally, like I feel like USF is building one of the top teams in the country. If you look at kind of the intangible things that coaches want out of their players, like Jeff Scott's doing a bang up job on that. And he inherited probably the biggest mess in the country, barring one or two scandals at another university, but like, a program that was downtrodden, fell from success, fell from the graces and everything like that, and is at least starting to re-energize the team, which is starting to re-energize the fan base, starting to re-energize recruiting a little bit. I think USF is on the upward trajectory, and I don't think that there's many people that can deny that at this point. You can look at the 3-15 record that Jeff Scott has all you want, but there comes to a point where you got to kind of ignore that and say, like, Jeff Scott's doing a good job. But Luke Fickell was in a very similar situation when he took over Cincinnati. And I think where we're seeing what Cincinnati is right now is what a lot of fans for USF are kind of looking for in the next couple of years. Consistently good, built those strong relationships, the strong roots. But, I mean, is there a possibility that USF can upset Cincinnati this week? Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt in my head. I don't think that this is like the Alabama-New Mexico game this week where, there's not a prayer in the entire Southeastern Conference that is going to allow New Mexico to beat Alabama this week. I do think that it can be some opportunities that USF can win this game. You got to play a perfect game on all facets, and they have yet to do that this year. Are they capable of doing it? Sure, but who knows? I think that 23.5 point spread is probably going to be true. Cincinnati absolutely needs to hammer a team and take advantage of some of the teams in front of them maybe slipping in the next couple of weeks. So Cincinnati now has a chance to get into the playoffs if the dice roll their way. Sitting at number 5, Alabama and Georgia are inevitably going to have to face off against each other. The last thing that Cincinnati needs to do is give the committee an excuse to slot them back to number 6.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Here's my question for you. What do you think? So Cincinnati has not played great the last couple of weeks, right? They've kind of struggled. Do you think that is a trend, or do you think that's something that will motivate them to try to beat the brakes off of USF if they can?
I think it's a trend. I think some teams are starting to figure out that Cincinnati, the key to Cincinnati is, they run a 3-3-5 very similar to how USF runs a 3-3-5, and there is a way to beat it. And if there's a way that USF is going to have experience in this game, it's they probably had to face a 3-3-5 most of the year. So I think that this is I think teams are starting to figure out, later in the year, like everything else, they're starting to figure it out. And that may, I think they're slipping. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think they're slipping a little bit here.
All right. Yeah, I mean, so here's their last three. So they beat UCF like a drum earlier this year. I think they were up 45-0 at one point. They won that game 56-21. Since then, 27-20 against Navy, 31-12 against Tulane, and 28-20 last week at home against Tulsa. Navy and Tulane were both on the road. So I wonder if there's something to that. It seems like when their running game is held in check, they struggle to score a little bit more. Notre Dame only 93 yards rushing, they scored 24 points. Navy only 95 yards rushing, they scored 27 points. Tulane held them to 124. So it seems like stopping the run, and as good as Ritter's been, I think their best player on offense seems to be Jerome Ford.
It is 100%
if you can slow him
Ford
down, it seems like that gives you your better opportunity. You can see that here if you look at the advanced stats. EPA per rush, they're 6th in the country, really good. EPA per pass, 60, so about average, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, we'd probably say USF is an average rushing offense. They're 58th in EPA per rush, so better at running the ball than Cincinnati is passing the ball. So I think that's going to be a key. Can you stop the run? I feel like if you were USF and you had to pick one that you feel like you could stop better, I think it may be the run, because it seems like people are just shredding you through the air. But this is a game, I think, since how Cincinnati's performed recently on the road, the kind of weird start time, travel, all that kind of stuff, short week, USF's got an opportunity to do something on a national stage with some great helmets, and possibly some great uniforms. I don't know.
We don't know yet. We haven't seen. We've done everything we can on Photoshop to see if we can revert those, the silhouette, but we can't quite do it yet.
And like I said, Houston was really, and Alex says kind of the exact number here. Houston was really good defensively before the USF game last week, really high in all these metrics too. And USF was able to score on them a lot more than I thought they would. Even if you take away the 2 touchdowns on the kickoff returns, I thought the offense played much better. You weren't on here last week, but Nate and I kind of were talking about, what is a successful game look like against Houston, if not a victory. And I thought if they covered, you'd be really pleased with the progress they're making, because I didn't think they'd be able to score enough. So they did. They scored, they scored 4 touchdowns on the defense and then had the 2 kick returns. That's more than I thought they would score on that Houston defense. So offense is definitely trending in the right direction. And if they can score on Houston, you're hoping that can carry over a little bit to Cincinnati, who I think maybe has a little bit better high-end talent. They got some pros on that defense, but Houston had some as well. So with that being said, you want to get to the predictions.
Yeah, I think it's about that time.
Nate's internet has sacrificed itself for the victory Friday, but he gave his prediction 37-23 Cincinnati. So, Steeg, I guess I'll go. We want to leave you for
My
last,
moment.
so you can really. Heath, the colors. This is part of the Veterans Day. You missed it. It's part of the Veterans Day theme this week. So, the red, white, and blue there. So Nate says 37-23. I think we get a little regression from the USF offense. I think Cincinnati's defense is better than Houston's defense. I think Cincinnati will try to pour it on. I'm going to go with like a 41-17. Or no, I'm sorry, 41-13 Cincinnati. I think they're going to try to get out in front early and lay on the accelerator. So they do have a guy named Sauce. He plays corner, and he is probably a first-round draft pick. So
yeah, he is
Toast,
as good as advertised.
Toast is his brother.
Yes,
He's Sauce.
Yeah, it's Sauce Gardner is great, and so is that the other corner. I'm blanking on his name, but both their corners are just absolutely ridiculous. And if we get a touchdown pass this game, mark it off as a dub in my book. Just straight up.
The one thing that makes USF a real nightmare to defend, and we saw it a lot last weekend, is just McLean running around. Like you could do everything right on defense, and he could run around for 3 or 4 seconds, extend the play, and then somebody gets open. That is probably going to be USF's best chance. I don't think they're going to be able to just line up and beat Cincinnati, but McLean kind of pulling out some of that magic can keep this in a close game. I just think Cincinnati is going to be too much.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction. We got Nate's prediction. Steeg, we are on to you to finish this off here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is going to take every play in the playbook to beat Cincinnati, and you got to get a little creative there. But I like to hearken this game to fan favorite musical that I think everyone has been a part of. Hey Seth, have you ever seen a Star is Born?
I have.
Yeah, the new one, not the old one. The old one is it's pretty good, but more in the new school kind of thing.
On their Streisand head.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's a great little musical. It's
uplifting movie.
Yeah. Sad ending. Not to spoil my prediction or anything like that. But at times I think you start rooting for the Bradley Cooper character there, the drunk degenerate asshole, rock star and everything like that. And I think there's a lot of fans that are starting to get that. No offense to anyone who's making predictions or is calling for upsets or anything like that, but this is a sad song. This is a sad Broadway. You're up against you're up against the buzzsaw here, and that's not the best place to be. You get on stage, piss your pants. Lady Gaga laughs at you for like half a second and then realizes, oh shit, I gotta go home with this guy. So I'm not confident going into this game at all whatsoever. Just full disclosure, I think you kind of did the intangible things right going into the Houston game. Get those kickoff returns for a touchdown. You're probably not going to get those this week against Luke Fickell. I don't even think Brian Batiste is going to get a return. I think Cincinnati knows that they got to just absolutely just work the pipe here. I'm going with like a 56 to 10. I hesitated to give USF points because I really do think Cincinnati's defense is just going to come out all cylinders firing, and I think Luke Fickell knows that. The biggest way to make a statement to your college football playoff people is to just mollywop a team like this, and this is the time where you can't let another team fool around with you. You can't let them do it.
Did you say work the pipe? Don't let them fool around with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just all right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so we are all predicting a really tight game for Friday, but you know what they say: crazy things happen at 6:00.
Hey, I won't be surprised if USF pulls off the upset. I just really don't think it's gonna happen.
I will be surprised. For that, I mean, for Robert Steeg, for Nate and his failing internet, I'm Seth Varnadore. This is the Bulluminati podcast brought to you by Irish 31. Steeg, big fan of Irish 31.
Big fan of Irish 31. Oh man, let me tell you about Irish 31. I had 7 different locations around like the Bay Area. You got that one stupid one up in Oviedo, but with 7 great locations,
Sarasota to Oviedo.
Yeah,
and everywhere in between.
You've got some fantastic places to watch the game. Obviously go watch the USF game when they're away at Tulane and at UCF. But you can also go there for some other games. Some Premier League games. Maybe some NFL action. Some Bolts games. You got the whole gambit going. Maybe if you're an NBA fan, the NBA season just restarted. You can go there, watch some shooty hoops. Fantastic locations, fantastic drink specials, great food. You gotta love the box teas. Yeah, love Irish 31. Those guys really know how to Irish the 31s.
That's right. I mean, I mean, look at this. It's just the comments are rolling in here. Irish 31 is a great place with great people. Wow, I love Irish 31. Steeg loves the Irish 31. Watch party was great. They allowed dogs.
They do allow dogs.
So if you're looking for a place, sorry, Heath. Unfortunate missed opportunity. If you're looking for a place to watch a game with your dog, your figurative dogs and your literal dog, you can do it all at Irish 31.
I heard if you ask them, they'll play Air Bud for you. So
they've got enough screens. They've got enough screens you can watch Air Bud, Golden Receiver on one screen, watch the USF game on the other screen, and they have alcohol to make it all work. So
it all comes down to wash, baby.
There you go. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with the film room. I'm sure we'll look at a little bit of defense, probably some of the great offense stuff, and a little bit of the special teams. We got an interesting film room all the way around, and then the game is Friday, so the week is coming to an end very quickly. Any final thoughts, Steve?
2022 is going to be fun. That's it.
Whole line's coming back, it looks like.
Hey, you want to get me excited for next season already. You bring back everyone that's been productive on this offense.
That'll work.
That'll work.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls. Have a good night.
Great uniforms coming up, hopefully.
I hope. I hope we need something positive going into this game.
Beautiful uniforms coming with a great helmet leading to a Bulls victory.
There we go. Go